survivors, and welcome to First Aid Spray, a Resident Evil podcast by fans for fans. This is season 8 of the show, and this is episode 106, wherein we'll be returning to Raccoon City to train troops, build bases, and be bombarded with microtransactions as we cover the new mobile game, Resident Evil Survival Units. My name is Sai, I have luminous pink hair and a horrific cough, and joining me on the panel this week, please insert a funny intro here, it's Mika.
No.
No, seriously, I've got nothing. It's James, aka Moist Owlet.
You can't tell me what to do.
And how does one find something funny to say about this generic nothing of an app? It's Firebutton Steve Valance.
Hello. Did you know you could disband superfluous troops?
Every episode of First Aid Spray is recorded live on Discord, so join our server now to become part of our fantastic community that includes Resident Evil diehards and newbies. If you'd like, you can support the show via our merchandise store or over at patreon.com/FASprayPod for as little as $1 a month. All of this and all of our social media links can be found at our website, faspraypod.com. Not a insignificant amount of housekeeping at the top of the show, so let's do that first. First of all, thank you to our new Patreon supporters. It's always nice to see new names, and it tends to happen towards the end of the year, so thank you for the Christmas gifts from Derek and James Hines for supporting First Aid Spray, and thank you to all of our patrons for continuing to support the show. We have finally dropped the long-awaited episode. Took a little while to find the time to do it, but Kelsey and I sat down for about an hour and did the first in a new series of sort of AMA episodes, questions asked largely by our patrons and some members of the Discord server. It is Patreon exclusive, and we go into my personal history with content creation, video games, Resident Evil, some behind-the-scenes First Aid Spray stuff. It was a really fun, kind of chilled conversation. So yes, if you want to check out the first episode of the series, what we're calling A Moment of Truth, that is now available on our Patreon feed. No matter how much you're pledging, you have access to that now. And let us know who you want to be in the chair for the next episode, next time we do an AMA. Meanwhile, something more broadish, something that's available to our UK listeners. We're doing a bit of a giveaway right now as of recording. It closes on Monday the 19th at 5 p.m. GMT, and it's for a couple of rare pieces of Resident Evil 2, the board game, the Kickstarter exclusive packs for the 3D door upgrade set and the 3D terrain pack, which is ink ribbons, corpses, typewriters, that kind of thing. These pieces were, Kickstarter exclusive, so at this point, wow, we're nearly a decade out, I guess, from that Kickstarter now. Together, finding these on eBay, you're paying probably over £100. They're very hard to come by. I, luckily, happened to come across a couple of spares that were gifted to me that were just in a back room in my work office, which is amazing. So I thought, let's put them out to our audience. So there'll be a link. If you haven't seen it on social media, there'll be a link in the description of this podcast to enter that giveaway. You must be a UK resident and get your email address in, again, before Monday at 5 p.m, Monday the 19th, at which point I'll be pulling a name out and getting in touch for the lucky winner. No more strings attached to it than that. Simple as that. Just a chance to win some really cool, rare pieces of Resident Evil 2, the board game history. That's enough from me. Steve, take us into the headlines, please.
Our first news article. A developer has dropped a 98%-ish plus complete version of the Game Boy Color Resident Evil port.
Yeah, this was a wonderful little surprise that came out a couple of weeks ago now. Dropped on gamesthatweren't.com, which is a fantastic name for a website, which, yes, preserves cancelled and unreleased video games in various formats, including this ROM, which you can download now, which was supplied by one of the developers of the game, Pete Frith, who says it's about 98% complete by his sort of reckoning. It's probably as close to 100% as we're ever going to get, because obviously the game was cancelled before it was ready to ship or anything like that. So this is probably about as complete as we'll get, and it might actually be completable if you can get through it. But yeah, it's super interesting. Now we can see a lot more of what this game, how this game converted the PS1 version to the GBC. It's really interesting to look at, and just as a cool part of Resident Evil's long history, as it's always been, it's cool to have a little bit of a refresh. Mika, any thoughts on this?
Actually, yeah. I think this is a really cool thing that somebody in the community came over and did. I remember the one time I saw you trying to play the version in the Discord a while ago.
Yeah, I think I did a video on it on First Aid Plays, actually, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember thinking it was really cool then because of if any game could be translated like that, it'd be one of the older ones just because of how they were made and how that sort of style of gameplay translated. Seeing what I've seen of this particular production is kind of fascinating because the screenshot that they shared are some of the more iconic ones with the nice side by side. There's that one hallway that always uses that nice close up of the character's face, and they have that one next to the GBC version of it, which is really, really cool to see. Bonkers to see that a game that was like this big and as big as it was, and that they were able to make it smaller is huge. For the time it was, and the fact that somebody went out and finished it, I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, no, that's what I have to say on that. Yeah, I might try it.
Yeah, totally. As you kind of alluded to, I gave it a go in the version we had, and I think, to be honest, it's kind of a struggle to play anyway, even despite the fact that it was our finished ROM that we played. There's a reason why it got cancelled, but it's super interesting to look at and compare and contrast, seeing screenshots of end screens now and the explosion as the helicopter flies away, which in the most adorable, I don't know, it's so weird to see that scene just in really bright colors that would have been displayed on the Game Boy. And really interesting, I haven't seen too many people talking about this, but Kelsey pointed it out. One of the sprites in a lot of these screenshots, very clearly Claire Redfield. It's being used, I think, for Rebecca, and in some places Wesker, because, okay, sure. But design-wise, it's very clearly based on RE2 Claire, which is kind of fun. Steve, any thoughts on Resident Evil on the Game Boy Color, as complete as perhaps we'll ever get it?
Fantastic archival piece. The thing that still boggles my mind is the fact that this was intended for the Game Boy Color, which, I don't know if you know, listeners, but the memory size on that is teeny. It's pathetically tiny. We're talking under 5 meg. It's a little bit inside baseball. That's many, many thousand times over the size of my podcast audio files. That's ridiculous. Yeah. And that alone, the fact that this is so quote unquote feature complete as it is. Obviously, this version is a little bit bigger as it's been made to be running on emulators and whatnot. But the point still stands that if this had ever seen the light of day, it would have been a monumentous achievement. Hiccups and all, for example, Rebecca Claire Chambers Redfield. But it's a marvelous thing. I can't say it plays all too great, because 2 buttons. But you take what you can get. And for what it's worth, I think people should try it. I would argue that maybe if you just want the aesthetic, maybe just mod up the PC version of the original Resident Evil. But for the actual experience and the peculiarity of the controls, you could do worse. Sherwin's going to hit me, but I think it's actually more fun than Gaiden.
Oh, that's bold, that is. James, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, mostly from the game preservation side, and it's poignant that we're doing this podcast today on a day that the BioWare game Anthem is being shut down.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Good, yeah.
A game that, it didn't do great, but now people such as myself who bought that game, that game is being removed. So when we have stories of people who put in the work to bring these games and preserve them for us, it's all the more like a reward, and it's great to hear about, especially when we keep hearing about these games that are being shut down that we've essentially stolen from us. So it's good that these keep happening. I mean, it's good news all around. I did laugh at the Claire thing. It's very, because that's the kind of stuff that made those older games in a way. I was discussing it while playing Helldivers 2 recently as well. That I kind of miss that nostalgia of the buggy stuff like that, the glitchy things like that. The things you have to work around because of limitations and restrictions.
Palette swaps.
And making your experience, better while keeping it while saving money and keeping it onto a cartridge, etc. So yeah, love the news. It's good. I hope we hear more of it.
Yeah, for sure. Like if you look through some of these screenshots, because up until now, the version that we had of the game that was out about on the internet, I think you could only play as Jill. You couldn't even start up Chris's campaign. But here, I imagine you can play both as it's 98% complete. But certainly there are screenshots on the games that weren't page of Chris's campaign. And Chris's sprite is the same as Barry's sprite, as Mika kind of alluded to there, just because it was like, well, they're never on screen together, so we might as well just use that, because otherwise, we're taking up another 0.1 megabyte that we desperately need for another sound effect or something, so... Yeah, absolutely. Coincidentally, speaking of games being preserved or not...
Capcom's Teppen is shutting down in March.
This one's kind of a sad one in a way, especially because Teppen, I don't know if anybody from the team or even our audience kept up with it, but obviously it was something we talked about in season 1 of the show. I think it was like episode 6 or something like that. It was really early on. So here we are 7 years later, and it is indeed coming to an end. As of right now, Capcom are ramping down, I guess, would probably be the right way to put it. By March 1st, you won't be able to buy any card packs for the game or exchange your adventure jewels. And then on March 30th, at the end of the month, the game will shut down. But, plus side, an offline version is coming. There'll be an update for an offline version, which will be available will be available to download until the April 29th, is my understanding. So if you are interested in playing this in the future, that's available for you to grab during that period. And then in the summer, they'll be closing down the website and all that stuff, which is a shame. That's the way these mobile games go, I guess. Coincidental timing, considering the main subject of today's show. But Steve, any lasting thoughts on Teppen?
From an aesthetic standpoint, probably still some of the coolest, like Resident Evil and Capcom adjacent art in like anything. Like
absolutely,
like many a cool wallpaper is to be had. Let's just put it that way. I'm most impressed at the fact that like we're kind of getting around that the era of games being sunsetted and just terminated. At least they have a plan. At least they are going to turn it into something that people who still really are hardcore Teppen fans can enjoy. Yes, I had a brief stint with it. I was like rubbish, but still, it's probably the stronger mobile game we're talking about today. But that's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes. I'm more like, I enjoyed the aesthetics more than I did the actual gameplay, and that's at least something that's going to be preserved regardless. But I'm happy for people who can still play it.
Yeah, big time. I was, I guess, pleasantly surprised, bittersweetly surprised. We've been doing some more social media posts recently whenever there's been breaking news and that kind of thing. And the post that I put out for Teppen's announcement got a little bit of traction from people who were upset by the news. So it definitely still had some amount of audience. So yeah, I do feel sad for those people, but you're absolutely right. From my point of view, it put out some incredible pieces of artwork, so it'll be a shame to see that come to an end, and hopefully that stuff is preserved by the fans online. And some really, it's worth losing a few hours of an evening to scroll through some of the incredible artwork. Just
it even had
let alone all of Capcom. Sorry, Steve, go on.
It even had Ark Thompson. It had Regina.
It had Bruce McGibbon as well. Yeah, it was crazy seeing designs of. Obviously, this was coming right as we were hitting the remake era. Really, this came out just after Remake 2, I think. And as far back as the beginning, they were doing classic designs as well as remake designs on different cards throughout the entirety of the life of this game. So it was really cool to see all of Resident Evil history reflected in drips and drabs in its own way, which was really neat, because obviously we had a little bit of an absence of that elsewhere in the series since. James, any thoughts on the closure of Teppen?
I did try Teppen, and it is sad because the artwork is the thing that I followed the most. Like seeing folks, I don't think there's ever been a negative said about the artwork,
for sure,
like you see on these cards. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but it's lovely to see original artwork like this these days. And I'm glad people can continue. They've given the people the choice to continue playing. But yeah, I didn't play it much, so I've got nothing much to say about it. Other than it just being sad. But I am glad that they have a fallback plan in some way, for the future.
Yeah, Mika, any thoughts on Teppen?
I think that if we're going to, just as an example, we mentioned Anthem a little bit earlier. I think in terms of, as an example of preserving digital media, this is kind of the way to do it. Teppen is an interesting game. I thought that as far as, in an oversaturated market of like competitive card games where everybody has their shot at it and everybody has their piece of the pie in that regard, I think Capcom's entry into it had some really good production values, had a lot of really original thought to it. Not just, and then you mentioned the deep cuts for not just Resident Evil lore, but for everything Capcom related. This was a really great look into their back catalog, into some deep cuts of Resident Evil and Mega Man and Street Fighter, and I think that it, as far as cash grabby gotcha games went, the fact that this game went as long as it did is impressive. Listen, people are upset, people are bummed out about Teppen going away, but they're giving you a chance to keep playing it. They're giving you another shot to go, and they're letting you do that. When you have the inverse of some people who bought Anthem are going to be completely up a creek without their ability to play their video game that they paid good money for. This is sort of a pretty cool way to do it, and then it's a game that's on a mobile platform that's lasted as long as it has. That's a full life cycle of a game. So I know that we won't see another one probably, but I think that what we had was cool. And thank you for the good times, Teppen. I hate Resident Evil. I'm sorry.
So our next news story, Xbox Game Pass users will be able to use Resident Evil Village. It's being added on January 20th. Is it going to be the Gold Edition or is it just Vanilla Edition? Do we know?
Great question. I actually don't know. I guess we'll maybe find out on the day. I don't recall what the situation was with RE7 when it was added, in terms of it being the standard edition or not. But that's a funny one because RE7 has been and gone on Game Pass. It was removed. It's no longer on there. I think Remake 2 and 3 are still on there, and Village is, yes, being added obviously a month before Requiem, which seems like appropriate timing, I guess. But yeah, I guess that's kind of neat. If you haven't played Village up to this point and you have Game Pass, hey, you got it for free in about a week or so's time. So that is neat. Is not much to say beyond that. It was just more of a heads up that it's coming. I guess we'll find out what version. I would assume it's going to be the standard version, just to incentivize you to pick up the DLC separate. But I guess we'll see.
And our last piece of news, everyone get some coffees ready because this Thursday, the 15th, we're going to have a special Resident Evil showcase at 10 o'clock GMT.
Yes, this was announced as we record today, so that is typical, of course, that this is going to happen the day after this podcast probably comes out, alas. But we will be doing some coverage, again, like the last news story, not a lot to say. We'll be doing some coverage over on our YouTube in terms of what the showcase brings us. As Steve said, 12 minutes long. I think it is at 10 p.m. GMT, adjust for your time zone. I'm sure you won't be able to miss it on social media because with 12 minutes long, I imagine we're getting a new trailer, maybe a bit of gameplay. I guess we'll see. Actually, let's quickly go around. What are people's expectations for the showcase? Let's see how wrong we get things. James, any thoughts on what it might be?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be more gameplay, more updates on Survival Unit.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think we're going to get any. I don't think we're going to get any new information. Essentially, yeah.
No, I think people
might get a couple of clips or something, but yeah,
hoping to see like another new game, or I think might be disappointed because we are a month away from Requiem. They're not going to start promoting another game. So when the copy that comes with, hey, we're doing the Resident Evil Showcase on this date, mentions some of the games included in the show aren't suitable for children, I think that, you're right, is probably alluding to the fact they're just probably going to mention Survival Unit, and they're probably going to mention, hey, by the way, Village is on Game Pass, and so on and so forth.
Also, I'm not at a convention, which means no new games will be announced.
That's right. That's the rule.
These are the rules. I will keep reminding everybody.
Mika, any expectations for the showcase this week?
The demo. That'd be my guess.
Oh,
I'm gonna get a demo
you think
announcement.
they've lied to us?
Yeah. I think it wouldn't be the first time they've outright lied to us. Remember when they said Leon wasn't going to be in the video game?
Absolutely, yeah.
That'd be like my incorrect call if I were to. They're going to give us a because we know that there's one that exists. We know that there's one that exists, and I'm going to get spicier with this one. I'm going to say not only is it a demo, but it's like that Resident Evil 2 demo where you can only play it one time ever for like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. Or was it 2?
Exclusive.
Yeah, it was something like that.
All of a sudden, a million PSN accounts just get created overnight.
That's right. Steve, any predictions or expectations for this week?
I'm with Mika on this one. I feel like if they lied about Leon, they could have been lying about a lot of things.
Yeah, sure.
But just so I could put 50p on the Discord and have a bit of optimism, maybe we'll get Classic Collection. Maybe. God damn it, maybe. You know? No, we probably won't. But it would be nice, though, wouldn't it, Capcom?
It would be nice. Wouldn't it be nice? Okay, that'll do us for the news then. We'll launch next into our coverage of the new Resident Evil game that isn't Requiem. Of course, we have to talk about Resident Evil Survival Unit. And now, reading the Soldier's Diary files from Resident Evil Survival Unit, Jordan Darringer, who you can find on YouTube at Gaming Inc.
January 18th. Was our first leave in ages, so we all got together to cook up some stew. Wish Samuel was with us. Really miss that old bastard. No matter how hard I try, I just can't make my stew taste like his. January 23rd. No date has been set for the mission, and we've been training non-stop. It's tough, but it's all in the name of surviving. There's no other way. I wonder when the operation will actually take place. February 15th. The operation is scheduled for tomorrow. I'm exhausted from the non-stop training, but my mind is sharp. The mission briefing didn't sound like much. We're just supposed to patrol the base perimeter and eliminate any approaching infected. As long as I don't let my guard down, it'll be fine. February 16th. Just like they said, the mission was to eliminate the infected wandering around the base. It was easier than I expected. Those things don't even hide, they just slowly shuffle forward. I calmly aimed for their heads and took them out one by one. It was way too easy. February 18th. Had a rough one today out on a mission. We were ambushed by a group of multiple infected at once, and for the first time in a while, I felt a chill run down my spine. We managed to fight them off and escape, but I got scratched in a few places. Back at base, I disinfected and treated the wounds just in case. They don't hurt much. Shouldn't even count as an injury. February 19th. I'm in the quarantine room now. I reported the scuffle with the infected, and they sent me here with a few others. I knew this place existed, but it's my first time being inside. This morning, the scratch I got from that infected started to itch a little. But I wasn't bitten, so I should be fine.
Perhaps last year's strangest surprise that we'd be getting a new Resident Evil mobile game, but it is here now, Survival Unit as we know it. Released worldwide on November 17th after being available in some regions a little bit earlier, which is just generally speaking how mobile games work. Stress testing the servers and so on. But it is now out on iOS and Android for free. It has been developed by Joy City and published by Capcom and Aniplex. As of January 7th, the game's socials said that it's been downloaded over 4 million times, which is, quite an impressive number. It is a free game, but it's still quite an impressive number. The game, of course, features a new antagonist BOW called Mortem, who was designed by Yoshitaka Amano, who most likely you'll know for his prolific work through the Final Fantasy series. And of course, a new protagonist called the Operative, or sometimes just the player, and his sort of woman in the chair kind of sidekick, Kate Anderson. It is a war game base building kind of affair with some classic Resident Evil stuff sort of stapled in, but we'll kind of go through all the various different parts of what the game is and how we feel about it. First of all, I wanted to ask what people were expecting out of Survival Unit before it came. How are we feeling about it on the lead up? Because, yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. Then we had that really weird, rambly showcase thing where they didn't really tell us or show us any of the gameplay or tell us what it was. And they were just talking in circles about nothing in particular. And then there was that weird music video trailer where the guy's constantly strapped to a laptop. It was all bizarre. And everyone was very excited about seeing Tyrant R. And now the game is out. I don't think anyone's particularly talking about it. But Mika, did you have any particular expectations or hopes and dreams of a Survival Unit?
Gosh, when I heard Resident Evil gotcha game, my first thought was, why don't they ever invite me to participate in the podcast for the good video games? I'm kidding. But wow, I really know. Like they did a really good job of hiding from us what a tremendous pile this game was going to be when it came out. They teased us with like cool looking Resident Evil style screenshots and recruiting all of your favorite Resident Evil characters was part of it as well. But yeah, prior to going into it, no expectations. But then again, I never really have any.
Yeah, probably the best way to be. Steve, did you have any particular expectations around this?
See, I'd never played mobile phone strategy games before, so I was just expecting it to be what it fundamentally is without the stuff that we'll probably talk about in the intro to the game. As in just sitting on timers. It's Farmville with Resident Evil on top. When you put the word survival unit as a suffix, all right, I think of something a bit more organized military than sitting around collecting grain and magic up soldiers and then fling them at BOWs on a map and it's just lines moving to lines. Yeah, my expectations weren't really all that high, so I guess it met them. Did it meet them? Oh my good lord. Yeah, no, it's just, you can play friggin' XCOM Enemy Unknown on goddamn mobile phone. Like, this is...
wrong. Even just aside from that, you can play, like, modern, full Resident Evil games on iOS now. Like, so this feels really funny sitting alongside that. I'm kind of with you, because I've never been interested in mobile gaming, but the idea of having a decent enough Resident Evil game on the go that I can just pick up a couple of times a day and press the buttons. I'm not necessarily against that as a concept. I assumed that was the kind of thing it was going to be, even though they were very coy about what exactly it was. And obviously now, if you look back on some of the gameplay they did show, it was only certain parts of the game, which obviously we're going to get into. So my expectations were quite tempered and low anyway, because I don't have a lot of experience with this kind of thing anyway. James, what were your sort of initial thoughts before the game came out?
I think my initial thoughts were all over our content leading up to this game.
Yes.
My expectations were very low. It's a mobile game, and like no matter what the Source franchise is, they have one goal, and that's to make money. There's no passion in making them. Like, so from day one of this game's announcement, I had no delusions of its intent and the model it'd be using. I'd say it would have a tough hill to climb with me, but as a filthy poor, I am not the intended audience. So,
oh my!
Scandalous. Yes, we'll get to that certainly. Right. Okay, then let's start talking about the gameplay. There is, I guess we might just dive into it. There's no story to this. I mean, other than it's set in Raccoon City. You're a guy who wakes up Walking Dead style in a hospital. You meet Claire Redfield, and then you wind up, I guess, somewhere in the foothills of the Arklay Mountains, where there's a mansion and various other buildings that you'll uncover and sort of use as a base of operations for this timeline. Do you know what I will say for one thing? At least the mobile game said right out of the gate, hey, this isn't canon. Unlike Capcom, who are very wishy-washy about making any statements like this, which has allowed them to just be like, whatever, to be honest. Yeah, the merchants here and also the Raccoon City disaster lasts a hell of a lot longer than a few weeks. It goes on indefinitely if you want it to. So, yes, you sit in the foothills and do that. But obviously, let's talk about not necessarily the core part of the gameplay, but that was advertised, the Resident Evil segments where you're wandering around the likes of the hospital, the RPD at one point, and so on and so forth. How did we feel about playing as the operative? This is the advertised bit of the game that, lasts about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours in total. James, what did you think of this stuff?
Yeah, the only highlights of the game, really. Yeah, those first 19 minutes. Oh, what we could have had. Yeah, and then they were promptly abandoned after they were over, and it asked you to review the game immediately after it.
Yes, yeah.
You never actually knew that was the end of the game, by the way. It just made sure that you reviewed the game after you played those particular pieces of gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, you'll never see them again. Yeah, they weren't transformative or anything, but they were the most Resident Evil element about this game. Like, I was expecting loadouts and gear and perks, some kind of RPG aspect, an actual merchant rather than what we got. But yeah, it felt like a proof of concept that was just kind of forcefully injected into the final product. It was a disappointment overall when you got to the end. And I think for a solid week after, I think a lot of us were in Resi new projects discussion going, is that it then? Is that yeah, so kind of crap, really.
The funny thing is, of course, that there is almost kind of like an RPG progression thing, because there is these coins that you can get along the first few hours of the game that you can put in the RE7 sort of bird cages to get upgrades for your operative, which I got most of those after these segments were complete, so they were completely pointless. But of course, they're generally completely pointless. The combat in this is very, rudimentary. I guess everything about this is very rudimentary. The combat sucks, not in a good way. I don't mind combat that sucks sometimes. Sometimes that's fun. But it's kind of sort of meh. But you're right. At least this bit felt like it was actually inspired by classic Resident Evil. It's very by the numbers. It's quite boring, but it feels like it was tailor-made for the game, unlike the rest, which feels like they pasted a Resident Evil skin over something else, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, it's got zombie shooting, it's got puzzles. I actually liked some of the puzzles. We had callbacks like the portable safe and moving books around on the bookshelf, and we had some new stuff. I really like it's probably been done in other games. I don't think it's been done in Resident Evil, but I'm sure it's been done in other games where you get a key and it's got all these different parts you have to rotate to get the right sort of shape for the lock. That's kind of neat. Some of the new puzzles, I was actually kind of like, this is cool. And then, it just stopped, didn't it? Mika, thoughts on the Resident Evil part of the Resident Evil game?
Not bad, actually. Loading it up, it was more than I expected. Which is to say, I was pleasantly surprised for the few moments that we got that cool, not quite Resident Evil, but Resident Evil style vibe. There were a couple puzzles to do. There was okay, cool. So this feels a little bit like Resident Evil. Hooray! And then you get rug pulled, like James said, as soon as they're like, hey, review the game, and then it gets pulled away. Disappointing. Give us a little bit more. I kept hoping that we'd see more content come out for it. Give us some more of those missions that at the very least kind of strung you along. Once we get past that, then it's bah.
I don't know if they were meant to be more spread out or what, but I guess there's only so much spreading out you can do with this kind of thing, because it's meant to be one of these games that you boot up every day just for a minute, just to do your dailies or whatever. So how spread out could it truly be? But yeah, it is kind of funny how it just, you do a bit, the game gives you a new location on the map to start using in part of your base, then you do another, and then suddenly you've got all the locations and it's just over, and the game just, it almost it wants you to forget that part happened. It doesn't mention it again. It's so weird. There's all this intrigue about the mansion in the center of the map and the puzzles in the basement and stuff like that and what's further down there, and it just suddenly ceases to matter. Steve, what are your thoughts on this whole segment?
Yeah, no, if this had just been it wouldn't have been winning like, Game of the Year or anything like that, but it was serviceable, it was okay, You can explore an environment, and like Si said, there's some really cool puzzles. I kind of hope Capcom nicked that key for something a bit more substantial. But then it just stops. And then it goes from player who's had his memory removed and wakes up in a hospital like it's The Walking Dead. It's like, well, I need to look for my parents, but actually, I'll just become a warlord. After unlocking all these little like pieces of your base, like you have you have to go into the underground like a generator at one point to power one up specifically.
Yeah.
At least that, if you could have done that for all of them, would have made it a little bit more interesting. But no, you get like 4 exploration sequences. One of them's as Claire in the RPD, EA. And that's it. And then it's just clicking on buttons and grinding and grinding and grinding. If it wasn't for the fact that, that initial hook was okay enough, they then have the goal to go coming soon for over 2 months with no update as to the content on it. Just like, yeah, see you later, guys. That's pretty rough because it leaves it on a cliffhanger as well. The protagonist and his sidekick, lady from City Hall, whose name I cannot remember, are as of current moment still looking for a key for 2 months. But they've had enough time to deploy thousands upon thousands of soldiers against like all manner of bioweapons. It's they've met every single Resident Evil character besides Chris. Okay, busy couple. It's the initial hook is such a horrible hoodwink deceit. The more you think about what comes afterwards, I'm getting irate talking about it.
It's so weird that one of the opening segments is literally the RPD from Remake. Like you go down the liquor corridor, well, not the liquor corridor, but the liquor that side, with the wet corridor down that bit with all the open windows into the little office. The whiteboard with the thing written on it and all that. You go down there and you're like, that's really cool. They made parts of the RPD for this game. You never go back to them. There's no relevance to it at all. It's just in there because they felt like they put it early in the game and get you hooked in, like you say. Leave a positive review and hopefully they'll keep a few people for the long haul. Very strange and very cynical. But yeah, I mean, I guess the whole thing is a bit of a cautionary tale, as you said, Steve. Just never get a crush on Claire Redfield or you'll accidentally become a warlord, because that seems to be a thing. Occasionally, you'll just have a conversation with Claire wandering around the base, and they just flirting with each other. And like, this is weird. This whole thing is so weird. But yes, then we arrive at base building and microtransaction hell, the core of the game. I don't really know how best to explain it other than that, really. Yes, you have your command center, your mansion, you've got your 4, the lumber yard and all this stuff where you get your resources from. You've got 3 little areas where you train your troops up and just generally increase your base's combat power, join an alliance, go out there and do some missions, which largely is just clicking on thing and saying, send characters here. But how do we all feel about the base building core gameplay loop? Miko, I don't know if this is something that you've got more experience in compared to some of us, perhaps, this sort of thing. How did you get on with it?
I mean, it is really standard and pretty typical. I do play a fair bit of licensed gacha games. I do have a weakness for when my favorite piece of schlock creates more schlock. So I've played the 40K one. I've played the Final Fantasy 15 one. I've played the Final Fantasy Tactics one. I've played... the Final Fantasy Tactics one is actually really, really good, and they dialed that one down recently. But and how this one felt so in a lot of cases, what pulls me along with these kind of games is how close they like care about the source material. And as we've talked about, the first part of the game is really, really cool, but once you get to the meat and potatoes of the game, they kind of abandoned it. Like, this could be literally anything. I'm trying to think of another situation. This reminds me of the deck building game that we played, where my primary feedback about the deck building game was that, like, beyond the art on the cards, there's no theming for Resident Evil here.
Right.
And that's this game too. Like, beyond the fact that the characters have Resident Evil faces, it doesn't feel like Resident Evil. Like the little combat segments that you have, why is Marvin's power barricades? Like, Marvin has never expressed a barricade fixation. So, like, why is that the thing that he gets? Why does Claire get a giant minigun? No, is it Claire that gets the minigun? I know Jill gets the giant railgun.
Yeah, that's a remake 2 reference, because she gets the Gatling gun now, doesn't she?
Sure. Jill gets the giant rail cannon that she fires. But, like, so...
You're missing the best one. Brad Vickers, one of his abilities is throw a sign, because he's on screen for so little of Remake 3. They had nothing else to pull for him. Hilarious.
That's funny. I don't even know that I did have Brad characters. I never used them though, because I ended up getting my dream team like right away from my gacha pulls.
We'll talk about that.
But like without their faces, it could have been anything. It could have been any game in any universe in any world that wasn't Resident Evil, because it didn't feel like it. Like there's no base building in Resident Evil ever. Like, why is there just another... Never mind. You know what? Never mind. Sorry. Bad. Felt bad. Don't like... Carrying on my status as a hater.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I can't disagree with any of that, frankly. Steve, how did you feel about this part of the game?
Okay, so the actual base building is just grab resources to upgrade buildings to get more resources, so you can upgrade buildings to get more resources, so you can upgrade buildings, so you can get...
Yeah, I don't know if I don't think you call two things a loop, but...
It is a very fickle loop. Now, you can go out into the world and gather resources, sure. You can also attack other players for them, I believe, if you build up enough soldiers to throw into the grinder. Okay. The only other gameplay mode, there's technically 1.5. There's one where you throw your gacha soldiers against other gacha soldiers, and then there's one where you do like a very rubbish tower defense in themed zones against various BOWs throughout the series running at you.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later, I think, but yeah.
It sounds cooler than it is, everybody. It's... As a classic real-time strategy fan, it just broke my heart the more I played it, because where is the actual like management of resources beyond just you just generate it magically out of thin air and then build more soldiers and then build more buildings, and you just do nothing with it. I could turn around and say I've got like 18 million power in this game. No bloody idea what that means. It's just pointless clicking. And it frustrates me, because games, when it's called a strategy game, I believe that includes that is, not, it requires strategy beyond just grinding. Okay, maybe my old adult GDI versus Nod brain is a bit too archaic, but positioning, right enemy comp for the right situation, stuff that requires a bit more cognitive power than just numbers, and that frustrates the living daylights out of me, because Nemesis shouldn't have millions and millions more capabilities than, say, 2 tyrants. At least in terms of this game, I just, it isn't a strategy game. It's just a button clicker.
It is a button clicker, and it's so funny. So I've been playing it consistently since release. As of today, in fact, the game told me I've on like 50 days consecutive login. I was like, crikey, don't tell me that. That's awful. But when you do log in, it's just so vapidly like, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to boot it up now while I'm talking. But you log in and you do the things where it's like, let me get my daily free stuff. And you click on the VIP bit and you get one over there. And then there's a chest and there's like a daily login bonus. But then you go in, you look at further in here, and there's calendar one as well. And some days it's different. If you're not paying any money, I'm going to point that out. I've not put any money in this whatsoever. So I just get the free stuff every day. And occasionally there'll be different stuff. But all of these different menus have like 5 to 10 little things you can click on. And they're all like, pay $4.99 to get a little bit more of this. Pay $5. And there's like dozens of these things.
Mm-hmm. One time buy.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many of them. And it's And I know that that's how it goes and it's kind of whatever. And it doesn't really bother me because it doesn't impact my gameplay. But seeing it every day you log in, it's like, it's so vapidly obvious that this is just like looking for whales and there's nothing more to it beyond that. Because everyone was talking to me being like, oh, I played it for a little while until I got to the point where the game was like forcing me to spend money to continue. I'm, again, 50 days in, I've not experienced that because I'll turn it on in the morning, press something to upgrade, put my troops on in the cooker, go on, put some troops in, why not? Do a bit of research, and then just sort of leave it until the evening or whatever and come back. And just sort of chipping away at things. I kind of don't know why I'm doing it. Like, as you said, Steve, I now have more resources than I possibly know what to do with. My base gets... I don't know if this is just my experience. Maybe I got lucky joining the random alliance that I picked. But I've almost never been attacked, so I've almost never lost resources that can get rumbled from you if you get attacked by other players and BOWs. Stuff outside of your stockpile gets stolen or whatever. That's barely happened to me. So I'm just sitting on endless resources that I don't have the time to use because I've got to wait for the soldiers to cook. And I'm now at the point where the mansion, which is the big part of the base, when I upgrade that, I'm at 4-5 days to upgrade it at a time, so that's all I can do for a week and just let it sit. It's just like, I've been playing this for 50 days and I've just hit end game. Like there's nothing to do. I'm just pressing the thing. And it's so weird because I don't know what most of it is either. Like Stevie, you mentioned the Nemesis stuff. I don't know what the point of all that is. Oh, sometimes Nemesis, you can go and fight the Parasite guys. What? Okay, cool. Wesker program, something. Recently, we had this thing where you could go fight Mortem on a building, and then people could claim it for resources. Okay, cool. Why? I don't need any resources. I don't need anything. I don't need... Number go bigger, but as Steve said, I don't know why. It doesn't really impact me that the number is bigger. I'm just pressing the buttons. It's just... There's just so... It's so hard to talk about. I feel like I'm ranting and raving, but I'm not even that mad about it because there's nothing here to be mad about. There's just nothing to this game. James, how do you feel about the core loop, quote unquote?
Before I go deep into it, I also want to mention that this game is meant to be initially it was shared to us as and when we started up the game it was shown to be a game about community and joining each other against whatever each other. Actually, that whole each other thing was something that I'll go into that. But anyway, we couldn't, any of us in the freaking server, we couldn't join. I made a First Aid Spray alliance. Nobody could join it because the game decided to randomly put people in different servers on different worlds. And it's like servers within worlds within worlds within servers, right? So it's like a spider web of bullshit, right, that you have to jump through, right, to just play with each other, right? Because that was actually the thing that I was most excited to do, was actually be an alliance together. But we couldn't even do that. I know a couple of people from the server had joined that, and I think last time I looked, which was on Christmas Day, because I gave myself a gift of never playing this game again on Christmas Day.
Bless.
Yeah, I had like 7 people join the alliance, and if you look at numbers, I mean, both Steve and Si, and I'll go over it more a little bit later on, but it is a game about numbers, number big. But yeah, in terms of the base building and microtransactions, I'm going to stop calling this game a game now. It's like I use the term game with very heavily implied quotation marks. This was made to lure fans of the franchise in just enough to persuade you to buy anything in the app. These gacha style games they're intended to keep you hooked for at least a day. They feed you more because if it's on day one, they fed you these resources more than you knew what to do with until you hit like this soft wall after about 2 days or so. Yeah. Then that's when the insidious predatory part of the game comes out, because then the true intention of it rears its head as shop discounts and overpowered heroes are showcased in some way. And like the wild thing is this product doesn't know what it wants to be either. Like you have gacha, you have base building, you have exploration, all of these things it does with the least effort, like minimal. Like it's all about the numbers, and even those are really innocuous and poorly explained. Its currencies are just reskinned ones from State of Survival. The UI is almost an exact copy of it, like which I will share in here in a second, because you'll look at it and go, what the And for folks, I understand folks who have not delved into these mobile games like this, it may appear as like initially fresh and like an interesting concept, but it can't be further from the truth. It's utter bollocks. It's crap. And I'm gonna post like these images. I'll post the Survival Unit one first, and then I'll post Survival Unit. Sorry. Well, I mean they're both the same, right? But look at that.
Wait, yeah, look at that. Very much so. Definitely worth doing a Google for that game.
Yeah, just put State of Survival base, right? Yeah. And you'll see it, right? And even their mercenary systems, right, are exactly the same. Again, it's a carbon copy. Yeah. And when you look back on this stuff, and by the way, the State of Survival isn't the first game that this has happened to, right? There is a bunch of, I think it was the first of its kind that popped its head. But then since then, a bunch of games have copied this big number scroll wheel, put sliders all the way to the right. It kind of sparks endorphins in a lot of folks. Like, and I think that is, I mean, I'll go into it more later again, because I did make notes so I wouldn't rant and rabbit on, but I've done it anyway. But yeah, don't play this game. Don't play this game. Just let the whales. And by the way, for a definition of what a whale is, it's somebody who has an awful lot of money, right? Who spends, it's who this game was made for. It's who these games were made for. The kind of people that are going to go and buy every one of those dozens of season passes that I mentioned, which will keep the game alive. A few people like that, or obviously more than a few, but totally. It's the other thing as well that you kind of is sort of related to what you were saying is, especially early on when you play this, there's enough going on where you kind of stay on the app for an extended period of time. Yeah. Because the research doesn't take very long, and then you'll get like a supply box, which only has like one thing in it. But then the next one will come in 5 minutes. And by the time that you've done that a couple of times, your research is finished. So you set another one up. Oh, hang on, my soldiers are done. Let me just put some more soldiers in. Or, my upgrades are... Oh, while I'm here, while I'm waiting, and it's only going to take a couple minutes, I'll do a couple radar missions. And then you've invested your time into it, and then they hope that you'll start investing money into it because you've invested your time into it. So obviously, play with caution when it comes to things if you are going to play them at all, and don't let them get you. Unless it's your money, do what you want with it, but don't let them get you. At the same time. Also, the quotations of base building. There is no base building in this game. There's no base building. If this is the kind of thing you're looking for, there are better examples of it, I'm sure. This, to me, as someone that hasn't played this kind of thing before, but this just felt like a Facebook game, frankly. Like, this could be reskinned Farmville for all I care. Like, it's the same thing. Goodness me, that's a throwback. Yeah, right? Well, that's how long this kind of, like, as James said, barely a video game. It's hard to call it a video game, but these kind of things have existed. And it just so poorly explains itself. And I think looking at it now as we talk about it, it so deliberately poorly explains itself. I don't know what's going on the most of the time. I'm having, I want to say fun, but I'm okay on my little island here pressing the buttons. It's not negatively affecting me or my bank account, so I'm fine with it. February 21st. Had a high fever last night. It's calmed down a bit today, but I still have a temperature. I really hope it's just a cold. I was originally supposed to be released from quarantine tomorrow, but now I'll be in here a few more days because of my fever. The guys who came in with me left laughing. We promised to crack open our hard-earned beer together once I'm out. The wound's gotten itchier, so they gave me a new ointment. They're also changing the bandages every day. It's not even a serious injury, but those guys act like I've lost an arm or something. February 23rd. The fever came back. People in hazmat suits like the one I saw in the movies came in and gave me a shot. Since yesterday, it feels like my hunger never fades, no matter what I eat. I already ate 4 high-calorie biscuits earlier, but I'm still starving. Something's not right. February 25th. It's been a full week since I was placed in quarantine. When will I finally get out of here? Despite the daily meds and injections, I'm not getting better. Last night, the wound itched so much I couldn't sleep. Something's definitely wrong. Even the person who came to change my bandages today looked grim.
Don't tell me. Am I beyond saving? February 27th. I am totally screwed. Thought it was just a minor scratch. Itch spread everywhere. Legs already trembling. It's over, isn't it? Hands too shaky. February 2. Had no think properly. Heat. Itch. Wound scratch. Peel skin. I'm done. Itchy. Hungry.
Let's get into some more of the little bits and pieces on the side there, because obviously we've mentioned what they call the exploration gameplay, which is that, I guess a tower defense thing. We have 3 characters with waves of enemies coming at you. There's also the radar missions, which you can go out into the world map and find BOWs to fight, or just click on the ones that are sort of supplied to you, which is rescuing soldiers or just going out and fighting BOWs and that kind of thing. And of course, an element is building your team. One of the sort of, I guess, selling points of this is all the different Resident Evil characters brought together. Not just the obvious stuff, but a bit of a really interesting, and I will commend, it's so like Leo point meme. Like I'm clapping at being given a reference. It's kind of pathetic, but I do like that it's like, here's a couple of Outbreak characters, here's a couple of Resistance characters. Barry Burton is in this. You can have Mikhail. Like, it's kind of neat that that's there. This is already more of a celebration of the series than RE-verse was because of that. Let alone the fact that the exploration gameplay, you can go and fight Crimson Heads. I fought Yawn recently, the Gravedigger. You can go fight the Hypno Tyrant from Survivor, Tyrant R from Outbreak, which is just neat to see those things. But yeah, I've got more to say on this kind of thing. But yeah, Steve, how did you feel about the exploration gameplay and building your team? As I understand it, you're the only one here that managed to get Carlos because you got him for free, right?
Yeah, there's a like a spin the wheel thing game you can do and a fluke tit. I also got Ada through a similar process. So yeah.
Oh wow.
The only legendary Steve doesn't have is Leon because he's not paying money. Oh, I don't have Jill either. I don't have Jill because I paid for her.
I got Jill.
Well,
Oh.
I don't know what to tell you.
Brag about it.
I did. I will.
So initially, I was like, okay, this seems kind of interesting. And then it just becomes a numbers game to the point where I just hit automatic double speed because there's no point trying to control it because it just tedious. My main go-to team was Barry, Marvin, who can summon barriers, and Claire, because they were literally just numerically the most powerful and therefore the most viable. Each character has unique quirks. Carlos he has a special ability to throw a grenade.
Thrilling.
Boy.
Clap.
Yeah.
Please clap. As we said, Brad can throw signs. We now know what Murphy Seeker's ability is. He is apparently the god of shooting, which means he can just spray his gun like an absolute wild lad. Becca Willett does what she did in Resistance, which is she just lays an absolute smackdown of gunfire. So I'll let her have that. She does what she did in Resistance. Same with Tyrone. He just smashes away with an axe and kicks people.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, fair. They do what they did. Catherine Warren, she's got the flamethrower because she gets the flamethrower in that one scenario where she's in the Ghost Survivors. There are some winks and nods, I'll give it that. And the fact that there are BOWs that are from the RE engine and not from the RE engine, hell, both types of Ivies are in it. Like,
That's true.
You've got Triffid IVs and you've got the zombie IVs from Remake. That in itself is a lot more effort than I was expecting. All right, and they all behave differently. I haven't seen a classic Nemesis yet, but I get the feeling if there is probably a chance because I've seen a T103 designed after the one from, the one
Classic
from the
RE2.
Remake and Classic RE2 in there. Thanatos is in it. This is the only part that's even moderately compelling, is these pseudo RE Engine looking things that aren't from the RE Engine, plus spiders. They're braver than Capcom. They put spiders in it. But it's just so banal and number based, and just like you just watch your dudes automatically blast these things. The joy quickly evaporates. And there's no like big database, there's no lore dump, there's no way to look into what some of these creatures are. If you don't know Resident Evil going in, these just might as well be, zombie cutout number 3. There's no depth. There are files. I'm going to leave that for someone else to explain, because I'm not even sure if I can really consider it lore.
Files, which I guess largely amount to just someone read some Resident Evil files and went, I could do some of those. It's just kind of rehashing of the standard thing. You've got your soldier that does the Keeper's Diary turn into a zombie thing, which will be accompanying this episode in some parts. So you'll get to hear that if you haven't played the game. But just kind of, I'm with you. The exploration gameplay, you should always put that on automation. Like, there's no reason not to. If you die during it, then fine. Just go make number bigger by doing anything in the game, and your overall strength will go up, and eventually you'll overcome whatever it was you faced before. It's really funny actually playing that bit of the gameplay. Chugs my phone out, something fierce. Just my phone does not like what's going on. It seems poorly optimized, because I've seen a few people say that. The stick in my craw when it comes to this stuff. I'm glad to hear you say a few different names there, Steve, because I was worried everyone was probably using the same team, because I really felt like it didn't let me make my I'll get my words out. It didn't let me make my ideal team, because, and again, just some explanation for people who aren't playing it. You can level up characters through about 4 different ways. There's just straight up plunging some experience points in them, which gives them an overall level. They have skills which you can upgrade. You can give them gear, which you can also upgrade. And these all contribute to their overall combat power. But the most important is collecting what are called, I guess they're called character files, because they're called like Catherine Warren file, Barry Burton file, so on, which upgrades once you hit a certain amount, you can upgrade their star rating. And they have, I think it's 5 gold stars that can go up, and they go up piece by piece by piece. Each star has like 5 segments, so slowly but surely. And that is the thing that makes the most impact on the combat power, I found. I've got characters that are 10, 15 levels higher than someone who has a higher star rating and is therefore higher up the pecking order and will show up more often and will go on missions, is recommended to me more than they are. They're a higher strength. So it's down to what character files you get. So I really wanted Becca from Resistance to be like one of my main characters, and I plunged a bunch of stuff into her, but the game has fought me every step of the way by giving me files for Marvin and Brad and Tyrell, which is fine. Obviously, Claire's great. Marvin, Tyrell, that's fun. You don't get to use them. Tyrell, who has a stationary machine gun turret thing for some reason, it's fine. But considering the variety of characters on offer here, I did find it kind of boring that I was constantly like, I want to use this person, and the game's like, nope. Characters are separated into 3 types. You must take one of each type on a mission with you. So it's whoever's the highest level, they get recommended to you, which is going to be Claire and whoever, because she's a legendary character. So if you did pay, or got lucky like Steve, to get some of the other legend rank characters, you're pretty much always exclusively going to be using the likes of Claire, Jill, Leon, Carlos, Ada, because those are going to be your high level characters probably, which kind of sucks. I wanted a bit more to actually create a team with it, but it just comes down to these ones have the bigger numbers, so you're best off using them, and you just kind of, okay, I guess I'll stick with these guys for now, which is just a bit of a bummer for me. That was the thing that I guess I was looking forward to the most, and it's a bit of a letdown, but there you go. James, how did you feel about building your team and going out and fighting monsters?
I want to add as well that this game, I said earlier that the different features this game has, it doesn't do them very well. And I forgot to mention a thing about the gacha, which really made me go, oh, so there's literally no point in me doing the gacha then. And that is that no other legendary champion or hero was in the gacha other than Claire Redfield. No other one.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to get lucky or pay. Yeah.
Yeah. What? When has a gacha game ever done that? Right?
Yeah,
They don't do that. You have a chance. Genshin Impact, you have a chance. Like whatever gacha it is, as long as you put work into it, that hard work, that effort, even free to play, yes, it's going to take you a little bit longer, but you're always going to get the stuff that you need because they tend to come with a pity system. And this game does come with a pity system, which is, I think, 10 or 15 pulls, and you'll always get like a legendary or a high tier epic, right? And yeah, it's been a method since forever with gachas. And you're just restricting yourself, and you're putting all these legendary heroes into stuff that's payable, or, you know, you would have to put some time into another game mode, right? Something else that is trying to target you in your wallet, you know, and it's, yeah, I thought that was incredible. Like another predatory thing, like, because when I realized that, I was like, well, I like Claire, sure, but, you know, she was not really pulling her weight at certain points. You know, and I wanted something else, right? And then I looked at the percentage pulls and stuff, and I only saw Claire and Claire's books in there. I was like, well, okay, there's literally no reason for me to keep playing this and put effort into it. Like if I can't actually have any use for the gacha. But yeah, when it comes to exploration, the gameplay, those radar missions, building teams, it is really, honestly, really difficult for me to go into depth of this stuff because the title itself is numbers deep. Like there's no passion here in any of it. There's no identity. The nostalgia neuron fires are nice to see with the monsters and the heroes, etc. But what's survival horror about this? What's Resident Evil about this? Like Mika said earlier, like, and the answer for me is nothing is. It's a product made for the boardroom and stonks. Insert GIF. You know, I wanted at least, because I've played a lot, you know, I've played Raid Shadow Legends, you know, I've played, Azur Lane, I've played Umamasame, I've played, you know, all these games, these gacha games, and they could just give you an illusion of, it's sometimes just outright, they give you your interactivity and self-determination. But this game didn't have that. It had no soul with its exploration, and the other features were big doo-doo, so yeah.
Fair. Very fair. I really thought that the character building thing was going to be, and I got the wrong end of the stick here, this is based on my assumption, but the way I would have done it, I'd have made it, which I wouldn't have done, first of all, is like, you're pulling, instead of pulling like, hey, I'm files to upgrade my characters all the time, and you just get one of every character, which I understand, but like, why not? Oh, I pulled a different Tyrell. He's better than the one I've got before. And then you can like combine them or whatever and train him on the best one or whatever. But just because it takes less than a day and you're like, cool, I've got the complete roster of characters. Time to just start leveling them up. So the kind of like exciting gacha pull moment of like, who's going to get off the helicopter? Well, once you've got all the characters, it's just oh, cool, I've got some files for that guy. All right, cool. So there you go.
Right, yeah.
Here's some upgrades. It just, the wind very much came out of the balloon for that. Well, the wind? The air came out of the balloon. Mika, what did you think of this sort of side of the game?
God, it was kind of the part of the game I engaged in the least. It like James says, it lacked soul. There's not a lot there to it. There's not much I really cared to indulge in. Like I remember, like I got to a point where after playing it for a few days, I didn't hate the wave defense stuff. Like, but if I'm gonna play a game in that genre, there's other better examples that I can play that I don't have to do on my phone. B are going to look better and be more fun because I can do them at my computer. Games like this are stuff I usually play as like second screen entertainment. I'm watching a TV show on one screen, playing like a mindless city builder or what have you on the other. So when it comes down to my choices between how I'm going to spend my time, it's between a game that I don't like and this one. A game that I actually like and this one. I wasn't going to pick this one. I didn't put very much time into that aspect of the game, almost at all. I did get Jill. I don't remember how I got Jill. I think I did buy a pack for like $3 just because I was like, oh, okay, I'm playing this for the pod. I'm going to like give it the college try. I had the $3, so I figured, why not? Let's do. I think that is how I got Jill. Was I did buy a pack, and yeah, I just I hated how granular the level up system was. Like a lot of games have that. The one that I play a lot is HSR, Honkai Star Rail, which is pretty granular in terms of your upgrade schema, but the game gives you, like, the game's gameplay loop provides you with the means to upgrade stuff. Like, if you have a specific hero, you can go and farm a specific mission to get the specific upgrade points for that specific hero or the item in question that you want to upgrade. Like, a good gacha game, and for all other faults Hoyoverse does make a good gacha game, will encourage you to want to play it by providing you with the things that make playing the game more fun. And this one didn't do that. I didn't feel like terribly incentivized to play the game aside from like number go up and timer go down. Like that's not why I play games. Like that's not what I look for. So my thoughts to this side of the game are not very complimentary. Like, be a better gacha game if you want to be a gacha game. Like it's a big market. And there's just better ways for players to spend their time. I'm so sorry that this is the one that Resident Evil got.
Yeah, completely with you as well, because you can sort of attempt to get files for certain characters by looking at the radar missions and seeing what the rewards are. And if they're of a certain level, they do give you specific character rewards. But again, those are randomized, and most of the time the game was giving me Marvin and Tyrell, so I was like, okay, well, sure, fine, whatever. If I ever saw a Becca one, I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. But even, as I say, even though I tried, the game fought me every step of the way over it, so by the end of it, I sort of gave up. So, yeah, like, it is disappointing to hear everyone kind of come to the same conclusion of, even for a gacha game, it's just not a very good gacha game.
Yeah.
And Miki, you're absolutely right. Like, there are so many games out there. It's such a terrible attempt at entering that market. So half-assed. Speaking of half-assed, let's talk about the aesthetics of the game. Hey! I can't... It's hard for me to talk about the audio side of this game because I turned it off very quickly. Because, sure, the music's probably fine and suitable, and it feels like it's... honestly, it's so long ago now that I don't remember if it's ripped from the remake games or if it just sounds like it belonged there, which is neat. But the line recordings from characters was so infuriating. You just hear Claire say the same thing over and over and over again. I just couldn't stand it, so I had to mute it after a couple of days. Particularly funny note, though, is that when you are skipping through the character roster, if you like, RE Engine characters, they all say a quote when you get to their page. Other characters say nothing. You're not going to get any... No words will come from the mouth of anyone from Outbreak, for example, because they haven't appeared in an RE Engine game, so they don't have a line, which is kind of just amusing to me. And the only note I have for the graphics is the graphics are something that exists, I guess. They are graphics. I have absolutely no opinion on them. James, any thoughts on this game, aesthetically speaking?
Yeah, it's State of Survival. and or similar games. Like it's literally those games. It's got an incredibly busy UI that is hard to focus on mobile screens. Specifically of those of us who have massive hands like I do, it was very difficult to press anything. Like it's like the buttons were tiny. It's cluttered with more stuff as well to hide the overall goal that you have. You're showered with red one notifications, and then there's menus within menus, which I think Si mentioned earlier. Like with the same as well, like you ding the button, you get your government issued reward, more doo-doo. I'm not going to go any more into it.
Yeah, fair. Mika, any thoughts on the way the game looks and sounds at all?
No, this game was stupid.
No thoughts is probably best, to be fair. Steve, aesthetically speaking, how do you feel about Survival Unit?
Do you remember before it became insufferable and downright obnoxious to the point where it's killing the planet, the AI deepfakes that made people sing, for example? Like, where you could take a photo of a friend and make them sing Back and Mitai. or whatever, right? A lot of the character animations, I say animations, right? Yeah. They have taken what appears to be like a stock bit of CGI art of each character. Some of them you can tell where they're from, and they've just been basically redrawn. And then to quote unquote animate them, it's with the same process with like weird soulless facial animations that are uncanny. And if they aren't AI deepfakes for the like quote unquote soldiers that you make, I'll be bloody stunned. The world map, coming from a classic strategy game point of view, is the blandest, most terrain, just green grass leading to a big block city with a monster on it. There is nothing to the world map. It's just dull. The actual encampment, I'll gather, the set of buildings, from what it looks like, it's okay. It's a middling little base. It's just tosh.
Yeah. It is. Right. Do we then think, now that we've kind of tore it apart, do we think this game has a future? We just talked about Teppen at the start of the show and the news being closed down after about 7 years of being online and having a fan base still after all this time. What do we see for the future of Survival Unit? It is worth pointing out that they dropped a video a couple days ago with a update which promises more of the quote, I think they called it single player content, which is the exploration stuff from the beginning of the game that we talked about, the more actually Resident Evil coded stuff. So there is more of the exploring the basement to come. I imagine that will probably last minutes and then we'll get back to the base building for a few months. But there is more coming. And I won't say necessarily what it is because we are a sort of an anti-leak show, but people have data mined that there is stuff in the code for the game that isn't in the game yet. So obviously there is content to come, but do we think there will still be an audience there in a few months' time, James?
This game will do well financially. If there's one thing big spenders love to do in mobile games, is spending their money to chase the numbers, become the top 100, the top 50, the top 10. The very best alliance on the server will only cost real moolah. It won't be because, and as Steve said earlier on, it won't be because a different strategy was employed. It won't be skill based.
Yeah.
And I'll mention again, but the soul of this game is in the highest bidder, just like its ancestors were, and just like those games. And I'm going to throw Diablo Immortal in here as well, and many other mobile games. It will just be the big cats. They will be left fighting over the scraps eventually. They will directly affect the trajectory of this product. The 1%, not the majority. And I am not interested in any future updates.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, Mika, go on.
No, I was just echoing what James said. Sorry.
Yeah, it is one of those things where when you look at all those different folders of microtransactions and all the different battle passes, it is all stuff like upgrade quicker and here are some gems to just skip an upgrade and make your number go up quicker than everyone else so you're more powerful than everyone else. And you're absolutely right. We're probably well on course for the biggest spenders being the most secure players on the game, and then obviously the alliances that have those players in will be the strongest, and then the people that are not putting any money in the game like myself will be just kind of priced out, either get lucky and be in an alliance with a few big spenders, or your alliance will wind up just getting steamrolled by someone else eventually, as the fight for control of the world eventually will kick off when people who have put months of eventually into this game, your alliance space that you're part of, your little encampment, or these identical mansions in the Arklay Mountains, that kind of grows over time as your alliance explores, and eventually, of course, people will have to start to fight for space, and then the game will just eventually die. And I'm with you, James. I think I don't know if I'm going to turn it on tomorrow, the day after, whatever. I definitely am going to let it drop. I know that much. I'm obviously vaguely interested to see what this next batch of single player content is, but I can't imagine it will keep me engaged for very long. Mika, thoughts on the future of the game and your future with the game?
I'm never playing it again. I've already uninstalled it on my phone.
Nice.
With that said, I think that I give it a year. I give it a year, and I think that's pretty generous. I get, we've been seeing a whole lot lately about like a lot of these games aren't performing the way that shareholders want them to, which is to say that they're making some money, but not enough money. I think we'll get the plug pulled. Actually, I'm gonna amend my answer. I'm gonna say this game comes down as soon as the company loses the license for it. So I don't know what the license is good for, but the second that Resident Evil license runs out, this game is gone.
Yes, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see what happens first, really, in terms of that kind of thing. And it is kind of funny to think, because obviously REverse is now closed and done with, and what was that online for 3 years? About that. So I would be shocked if this lasts half as long as that, personally. Steve, what do you think in terms of the longevity of Survival Unit?
Tragically, state of survival still goes, and the alliance that I have found myself aligned with, they seem to have all found a bit of a camaraderie in the thing, whereas I've just been politely going, okay, I'll help with whatever, and just click buttons to do that. I'm gonna tender my resignation tonight. Don't break any hearts or anything. But I get the feeling, much like can be said that bad games can be enjoyed with friends, I feel like there will be some cadres of people who still enjoy this game. The developers have probably made more than their fair share of coin already, but I can't see it stopping anytime soon, unfortunately. Which is why I'm going to just be very cheeky and instead just shout out a game I have been playing that's themed around zombies and a strategy game right this second. If you're on PC, if you've got Steam, I want you to just do me a favour and just check out a game called Dying Breed. It's vastly much more a survival horror strategy game, and it's much more worth your time than whatever the hell this is.
I think you're right, though. Yeah, I've kind of noticed that my Alliance chat does occasionally pop off with people chatting like they're friends, like buddies, which is, I guess, quite sweet until they start taking the conversation in really weird directions sometimes. But I don't say anything to anyone. You're right. I just press the, yes, I'll help with the tech. Sure, whatever. There you go. There's your 25 bits of wood that won't impact me because I've got a million bits of wood, whatever. So I guess in what we were saying about Teppen, same thing here. Probably there will be pockets of people who are saddened by this game closing in a year and a half or whatever it'll wind up being. But that's just the way these things go, because we talked about there are so many of these gacha games that come and go. I guess them's the breaks, just move on to the next one. Hopefully, and we talked about this way before the game came out, hopefully if this game is a success, it will pave the way for something different Resident Evil mobile game-wise that maybe connects with more of us and more of our audience. And there will be people listening to this that have sat through this and gone, I quite like it. And that's good for you. But for the people who aren't interested in Survival Unit, hopefully the success of this, and it has hit 4 million downloads, shows Capcom that there is an audience for this kind of thing. And maybe the next attempt is better. And that's all we can ever hope for when it comes to these things.
I think that number of 4 million too is sure, everybody's gonna people love Resident Evil.
It's a big name, yeah.
And people are gonna download it 4 million times, but let's take a look. I mean, it's probably not published anymore, but 4 million people downloaded the game, but how many of those people still play it? I guess is the better question.
Yeah. Oh no, it's very true. It's very true. But then some businesses are weird and they'll just look at the big number and go, that's the important one. Let's do more of this. So I guess we'll see.
Sorry.
No, go on.
We live in an era, especially in game dev and game publisher universe, where the quick buck is better than the long haul.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what this game is, but I'll go into it more on the conclusion.
Well, in that case, I was just going to say, any final thoughts from everyone? Bit of a shorter episode this week, but there is so little to say on Survival Unit. James, why don't you close us out first? How do you feel about this overall?
Yeah, like all of us, I've definitely come off as jaded this entire podcast, and I'm not going to hide that, and I stand by every point I've made. But if there is one, I do want to bring at least one positive thing, and Saya, you alluded to it just now, and it's that this will fund future Capcom games effectively. And yeah, as I just said, it's a quick cash injection for them. It would not have been done otherwise. We all have kind of varying levels of trust with Capcom, and for them to create and expand, their titles will likely not change from what we know, like their narrative and character focused direction they've been going in. And Survival Unit will be a small blip in like a year's time in Resident Evil's history, and then it will become a distant memory for most of us sooner than we might think, actually. And also Gen AI, as I'm certain it's been used in the development of this title, judging by Capcom's interviews in the past year. But yeah, on to better things, I hope, next month.
Hopefully so. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on absolutely all of that. As I said, it's hard for me to absolutely hate this. I just kind of feel nothing about it because, as we sort of talked about, it's quite soulless. And every screen that isn't that main screen with all the buildings on it is just designed for you to plug money into it, which sucks.
Yeah.
I guess it achieves what it sets out to do, but again, compared to its competition, it's kind of setting itself up for failure in the long haul, I think. But there you go. I don't think I've hit a brick wall with it in terms of the monetization yet, but I will say that I had a conversation with my housemate yesterday or the day before about it, and it was like, am I having fun with this? No, not really. Is it hard work? Not really. I'm opening it and pressing a few buttons twice a day, but it's not really a video game, and so meh. I don't know what it is, but it's not really for me. And James, I think you're absolutely right. In a couple of years' time, we'll just all be going, do you remember Survival Unit? That was weird. Mika, final thoughts on Survival Unit?
Final thoughts on Survival Unit? Don't play Survival Unit. Play something else.
Fair. Steve, why don't you take us home?
As I've already said, don't wish time Survival Unit. It's pretty bad. And play Dying Breed instead. Certified Hood Classic. Thank you.
Please, Capcom, find somewhere else to bring back the Hypnos Tyrant from Resident Evil Survivor that isn't just this crappy mobile game. But there you go. Nothing else remains for me but to thank the panel, our contributors, and our community. Join us on the First Aid Spray Discord server to hear the show early and check out our merch store or our Patreon to support the show. Don't forget that these and our social media links can be found at faspraypod.com. You can listen to the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all good podcasting apps. And if you like what you hear, please do leave us a review where you can and spread the good word. And so our new structure for the year begins with Requiem arriving next month. That will most likely be our next main podcast. But we are still some weeks away, so we'll probably be bringing back a format that I really love to talk about the game ahead of its release, which is wish lists. So keep your eyes out on YouTube. And also we'll be bringing that to the podcast feed as we kind of preview Resident Evil Requiem one last time before it releases. Until then, thank you to the panel. You can follow the Pueblo people on social media. We're all on Blue Sky now. I'm at Cy White. Steve is at FB Steve. James is at Moist Owl at OFF. And Mika is at Biblically Correct. And finally, thank you for listening and have a good week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the most optimistic we are going to be this entire podcast.